Today I'm running down some of my favorite comic book quick reads. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and we are still smack dab in the middle of the 25 days of comics. If I'm counting correctly, and I put these videos out in order, today is day 8 of the 25 days of comics. So 25 straight days of comic book videos, commentary, list videos, comic reviews. I'm having fun. All this is sponsored by Organic Price Books, and today we are talking about my favorite comic book quick reads. Now, yesterday, I told you guys, I gave you guys my top 10 comics that I have not read yet. And a lot of times, the reason my comics sit unread is just that sometimes the stories are just so long. It's like daunting. It's a daunting task to try to get in, right? The reason something like Usagi Yojimbo sits unread on my shelf is there's 9 volumes. And I feel like when I start one, I'm not going to want to stop in my mind until I finish all of them. Because if I stop in the middle of the story, I'm going to forget too much of it. Then I'll have to reread when I come back. It's kind of the same issue I've got going on with the Uncanny X-Men as they sit next to me right here. It's like, it's cool to have these books and it's cool to read them all just to know what happened. But the type of reader I am, I kind of have to binge read or I don't retain the story well enough. It's just the way it feels. So one of the tricks that I like to use to keep myself reading when I don't feel like I've got a whole month to set aside to devote to one title or another is reading something quick. I love a good story that I can just spend an afternoon with, a nice one and done, or a nice good standalone story arc that doesn't tie in too closely with the things that came before or after. And so today I'm giving you a rundown on some of my favorite Saturday afternoon quick reads. I guess you could read them any afternoon, but here we go. I'm going to start this off with the only Marvel book on my list. You guys know I kind of find Marvel to be a bit impenetrable. With the exception of like House of X, Powers of 10, there's not a lot of Marvel stories that I've read that I feel like you can just read real quick, unless it's just straight up one-off miniseries like Marvel Zombies or whatever. Anyway, let me stop talking as I disprove my own point and get into Marvels. This is the one example of a Marvel book that I just kind of read cover to cover. I want to say it took me like one day. I might have read this over 2 afternoons, but man, I loved this book. Marvels is written by Kurt Busiek with art by Alex Ross, and it follows this guy. If I remember correctly, his name is Sheldon, but he's a reporter. And basically, this is like someone living in the Marvel universe and reporting on what it's like seeing the rise of superheroes, or Marvels as he calls them. And so we're seeing him like sort of react to the advent of superheroes. We're seeing the earliest adventures of like that first Human Torch dude and the Fantastic Four and Namor and the Avengers. And then we're seeing like the rise of like mutant prejudice and stuff like that, right? Like all of that we see through the eyes of this reporter as he grows old and watches the world around him change, the New York City around him change. And it's an amazing story just about what it might feel like to be someone watching the rise and the advent of superheroes. And, you know, the story's good enough, right? But this art by Alex Ross is just amazing. It really does kind of hit home how larger than life some of this superhero activity is, especially from the perspective of the humans living on the ground floor of it all. And man, I love this. Now, I almost picked Astro City. Astro City is a creator-owned series by the same creative team, Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek. Although Alex Ross doesn't do the art on Astro City, he does the covers, but it's their brainchild. And the only reason that didn't make the list, even though the original 6-issue series is probably one of my favorite things I've ever read, was because I needed a Marvel book to show love to. And I felt like these books kind of hit similar themes. But if you've never read Astro City, that's the honorable mention that I'll give you as I flip through the pages of Marvels. But yeah, the only book on the Marvel list here, Marvels, Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross. You can take this, you read this on one Saturday afternoon or just one Saturday and really, really enjoy it. Now, Since we're done with Marvel, let's skip over to some indie books. I feel like some of the best one and done stories are these indie graphic novels, trade paperbacks, 4 to 6 issue miniseries that you can really quickly get in and get out. And one of my favorite indies that I've ever read, you've heard me talk about it on the channel before, but this is 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank. Matt Rosenberg, Tyler Boss, they craft this amazing story of 4 kids trying to pull off a bank robbery. Why are they trying to pull off this robbery? I'll let you read it. Are they successful? I'll let you read it. But this is like great if you are someone who loves like sort of coming of age stories, like the smart, wisecracking kid. Juno comes to mind, like The Sandlot, The Goonies, although I've never seen The Goonies. Yeah, there we go. Part 2, things I've never watched. But I love it. The art, they do a great job at the beginning of each issue, just reminding you of how young our main characters are. But you fall in love with this crew of kids, and then all of a sudden you're rooting for them. You're rooting for them to pull off this bank heist. And, the end is the end, and I won't spoil it for you. But I loved this book, 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank. Next book on the list. Now, another great Saturday afternoon read, or in this case, it was a Saturday morning read, it's gotta be the Reckless series by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. This is like, these are a series of original graphic novels by Brubaker and Phillips. My man Skip and Tosh begged me to read these books, and so I bought them all sight unseen, and then I read this one morning, and I was like, dog, this is dope. And so I've read Friend of the Devil, which is the second volume in this. Anyway, it's like a pulp story. It's this guy, Ethan Reckless, who was like a private investigator. He used to work for the CIA, and now he's kind of travels around solving these cases for people and, using his own sort of brand of brutality and justice, usually involving some love interest, kind of like James Bond in a way. Like there's some girl he's attached to, there's some mystery he needs to solve. Either something tragic happens to the girl or she's got some kind of trauma story or something. Anyway, this book is great. Reckless, I liked. Friend of the Devil, like, it was cool. It gets a little bit more into like sort of satanic rituals and stuff. This is definitely like an 80s type series. And so some of the stuff you would see in like an 80s B movie is what you see in here. If you're a fan of like Knight Rider, In the Heat of the Night, but with like more edge, like this is up your bag. This is in your alley. And like I said, it was a really fun Saturday morning read. I got to go read the other 3 volumes, but shout out to Skip for recommending this series. He was so he wanted me to read this so bad. He even like sent this in like a package, like, hey, here's a commercial. Like, make sure you read Reckless. He sent me this coaster. So it's just fun stuff, man. RIP to my man, Skip and Tosh. All right. And the next indie series, or is this the last one? This might be the last indie series I got here. But this is from Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, Tom Waltz. This is The Last Ronin. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. Now, if you're like me and you have like any passing familiarity with the Ninja Turtles, you might remember reruns of the 87 series, or you might be older than me and remember it coming on like TV. All right. I had a few VHSs of the Ninja Turtles. And, when I got into comics, one of the most recommended runs was the IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. Well, by the time I got into comics, they were already on issue 101 of that series. So you can either buy 15 hardcovers and try to read from the beginning, or you can grab this graphic novel. This was originally either 5 or 6 issues miniseries. I don't really remember. This series was plagued by delays. Like the 5 issues encased in here took like 2.5 years to come out. It was crazy. But when you go back and read this all in one shot, it is amazing. There's a reason that this book has been reprinted so many times. They're literally reprinting the single issues and sending them out to comic shops in the direct market right now, as if it's a brand new series still. That's how popular this is. This is like single-handedly keeping IDW in business. It's doing so well that they even did a sequel series, The Last Ronin Lost Years. I haven't read this yet. It's a prequel and a sequel at the same time. And they've announced The Last Ronin 2 coming out sometime in 2024. So if you're a Turtle fan, this is kind of like the Dark Knight Returns for Ninja Turtles. All the brothers are gone except one. I'll let you figure out who that guy is. And Master Splinter's dead too. And this dude is out there looking for revenge all summer 16. So yeah, Last Ronin is the next book on the list. And now we've made it to the DC section of my quick reads list and recommendations. So the first one that I will recommend is this nice, cute little graphic novel. This is Batman Universe. It's written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Nick Darrington. And this book originally was stories printed in like those 100-page giants that they were selling at Walmart. Then they reprinted it into a 6-issue miniseries, and then they finally collected all that into this graphic novel. And basically, Batman finds a strange artifact that keeps transporting him like all between worlds and stuff, and he just ends up some of everywhere. The art is amazing. Like, I really love Nick Darrington's artwork here, and it's off the strength of this that I want to check out the Doom Patrol run by Gerard Way. But Batman finds himself teaming up with Green Lanterns and Jenny Hex. And just like I said, he's kind of ends up a little bit of everywhere. Green Arrow's in here. And it's just the craziest story. A really fun story of Batman all around the universe. Gorilla City. Just cool stuff. This I read in one afternoon while we were teaching my daughter how to ride a bike. So she's like sitting in the cul-de-sac riding the bike. And I'm sitting at the end of the driveway with this book in my hand, reading it. And I had such a good time with this. Can't recommend it enough. Definitely a great series. Let me know if you want a standalone review of this. Maybe we should do that. Now, you know, I can't do one of these lists without including a milestone comic. This is Hardware Season 1. It's written by Brandon Thomas. It's got art by Dennis Cowan, inks by Bill Sienkiewicz, which are a real treat to look at. But this was one of the first series to come out of the whole Milestone Returns launch. As a matter of fact, I think it was... Did Static Season 1 come out first? I think it was Static, then Icon and Rocket, then Hardware. I don't really remember. But either way, Hardware Season 1 was the strongest, in my opinion, of the first season of Milestone Returns. Basically, this updates the origin of Hardware. It kind of keeps things the same. So if you're a fan of old Milestone, this will feel really familiar to it, but it's got elements that are brand new to this series. But Curtis Metcalf, this guy, has created like this exoskeleton suit. And he's been working for this company forever. He doesn't feel appreciated by the company. They're kind of co-opting his inventions, and he gets framed for an event that like kills a bunch of people and turns a bunch of others into metahumans. And this series is him trying to get back at the people, the company who framed him. And man, every step of this is amazing. If for nothing else, you will want this book for the art by Bill Sienkiewicz and Dennis Cowan. Like, some of these action pages are just beautiful. This is like superior draftsmanship. I gotta say, the storytelling in this, the page layouts, all of it are great. But the inks really do add a lot to it. I've seen Dennis Cowan's pencils and his inks being handled by a few other people at this point. This is the best that Dennis Cowan's work looks. The storytelling is all the way there, always and throughout. But something about that Cowan and Sienkiewicz combo, it just can't be beat. But what's amazing is that as good as the artwork is, the story is just as good, if not better. Brandon Thomas writes his behind off on this series, adding like different familial and just emotional aspects to Hardware that we didn't really see in the original Milestone, at least not that early in the original Milestone's publishing. This, man, 10 out of 10. Highly recommended. 5 stars. What do we do? And it's a book that you can read in like a day. Less than that, because it's only a 6-issue miniseries. So check that out. Now, the next book is the book that kind of got me into DC characters besides Batman, and that is Deceased. I actually bought this hardcover on Local Comic Shop Day 2019, and I really just bought it for the cover. but I'm so glad I bought this. Deceased is written by Tom Taylor with art by Trevor Hairsine. And basically Deceased is like a bunch of a zombie apocalypse taking place in the DC universe. They make a really, they create a really good reason for there to be zombies, and they do a really good job of explaining the difference between zombies like you might have seen in like Marvel zombies or like, I don't know, The Walking Dead, and what we see taking place in this book. But there's this sort of techno-organic virus that is taking over all kinds of people. And this book is really great in that its characterizations are awesome. Like everybody in this book feels like the DC characters you would know and love, especially if you're familiar with them from like, say, the Justice League animated series or something like that. But it takes these familiar characters and puts them in a situation where the stakes are crazy high and the story is super unpredictable. You don't know who's safe. You don't know who's going to turn. You don't know what's around the corner. And it's just suspenseful and action packed all the way through. Deceased, I can't recommend enough. And if you like it, they got like 5 more volumes of Deceased you can buy after this one. Definitely recommend. Now, before I finish this up, I do want to just remind you guys that this video is sponsored by Organic Price Books. And at the time of this recording, almost everything that I just gave you on that list is still available in stock at Organic Price Books. So if you're doing your Christmas shopping, now's the time to place that order, because you know how it is shipping, whether it's FedEx, UPS, stuff gets real busy by about December 10th. So go ahead to organicpricebooks.com or just use the link in the description down below. And if you see something you like, use the coupon code BJKicks at checkout to save $2 off that order. Or if you're a big baller shot caller, you're buying 4 books or more, you can use the code BJKicks, ship it together at checkout, and you'll save 5%. So don't say I never gave you anything. A huge shout out to Organic Price Books for sponsoring this video and for sponsoring the 25 Days of Comics. Now, let's get back to this list with a sort of surprising entry, but this was one of my favorite quick reads from the time I've gotten into comics. Well, this is an older story. We'll talk about it, but it's Superman Brainiac. This collects a story that was originally appeared in Action Comics, written by Jeff Johns. The art is by Gary Frank with colors by Brad Anderson. This is the same team. No, it's not. It's 2/3 of the team that brought you 3 Jokers a few years later. But Superman Brainiac, basically, Brainiac is trying to kidnap Superman and kind of keep him for himself and for his research. And in doing that, he's like affecting a lot of the people that Superman loves. And this book is like the textbook example of like the determination that Superman has to show up for the people who he loves most, and even the people that he has no idea who they are, just because it's the right thing to do. The art in here, though, by Gary Frank is just awesome. If you are a fan of the Christopher Reeve Superman, that's who Gary Frank models his Superman after. And so it feels familiar, it feels charming, but the stakes feel so high. And the story, the art, the layouts, all of it are just amazing, if, I say so myself. But you just see Superman being real super, and you get to see more of his family life. You see him with Ma and Pa Kent. You see him with Supergirl, his cousin. And this ends with such a heartbreaking note, but it's action packed and it's fun all the way through. And it's even got like funny stuff like Cat Grant. Like this book was great. And I read this at a time when I was like still a Superman hater, and even I couldn't deny this one was good. This one was really good. So Superman Brainiac. This was a Eagle Moss graphic novel that I grabbed off of like a Zavi mystery box. I don't know if you can still grab those mystery boxes anywhere, but you can read this on DC Universe Infinite, or you can get the upcoming absolute Jeff Johns Superman they got coming out. I don't know if it's Absolute New Krypton. Either way, this story is going to be collected in it. You can pre-order that now. So don't say I didn't warn you. That's Superman Brainiac. And the last book on the list is one that I felt like got a lot of hype when it first came out, and then we proceeded to never talk about it again. But this is Harleen. Harleen is written and drawn by Stephan Sejic. I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm saying it wrong. But Stephan Sejic, a writer and artist, probably most notably known for like some like erotic comics that he's done. But he's great at drawing. And this is Harleen. And basically, this is like the Black Label origin of Harley Quinn that you didn't know you needed until you got it. And if you can just look, I mean, if you see just from this cover image, the art is just beautiful. But this is her telling her origin story in her own words. It was a 3-issue Black Label series. And we get to see her turn from Harleen Quinzel, psychiatrist, to Harley Quinn. And most of this is driven by her falling in love with her patient, the Joker. I think what's really cool about this is it really paints Harley like in her own light. Like, she's not like some gullible person that gets tricked into becoming Harley. Like, no, she falls in love and she makes a calculated decision to become Harley Quinn. But yeah, it's really interesting. You see and hear her thoughts. You see how she like envisions Joker as like this sort of Prince Charming dude. Like, Joker is like super attractive in her eyes. And then there's this scene, right? Here we go. We got Joker looking like super attractive and like Prince Charming. And then we got Batman with the super glowing eyes looking like scary. And you just see how twisted Harley's mind is and who she sees as the heroes and villain of her story. And it's really, really cool. But we also just kind of see her slow descent into madness and, how she's haunted by the fact that she loves the Joker. And how, slowly her inhibitions kind of leave her and she's left as Harley Quinn. Love this book. I read this in the single issues. I haven't revisited it since, but this was a great quick read as well. And that is going to round out the list of I don't know if it's not a top list. It's just a few quick comic book reads that I really enjoyed. And I think you should get into if you're struggling with the fact that most comics that are recommended to you are these ridiculously long, epic tomes. Hopefully I gave you a few suggestions that you can chew on. And hey, you can read one of those today and have some fun with it. But that's going to do it for me in this video. Huge shout out to the channel family for making this one possible. Once again, thanks to Organic Price Books for sponsoring the 25 Days of Comics. If you are not caught up on the playlist, this was day 8 or 9, one of those. Check out the playlist over there and get caught up. I'll see you guys in another one real soon. Till then, be safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.